Hi and welcome back to Mysteries Channel. Today I was going to go over a couple more files that I found on Operation Sunstreak. Two of them are they're both very interesting. One is a remote view of Mars, and we're going to do that one first, and there's a reason why. The second one is about a weapon, I believe, and it's a little darker. So this way, if you're interested in any of these, or if you're interested in the Martian one, you don't have to watch the other stuff. You can just hit end at the end or stop it right after the Martian one and not get into any of the other weirdness that they see out there. So let's go over it. All right, here we go. Approved for release 8/8 of 2000. Mars exploration, remote viewed May 22nd of 1984. Method of site acquisition. Sealed envelope coupled with geographic coordinates. The sealed envelope was given to the subject immediately prior to the interview. The envelope was not opened until after the interview. In the envelope was a 3x5 card with the following information. The planet Mars, time of interest approximately 1 million years BC. Selected geographic coordinates provided by the parties requested the information were verbally given to the subject during the interview. 727-101-604908. Transcript, May 22nd of 1984. Monitor. ROJ for 522, May 22nd, time 10:09 a.m. Monitor. Plus 10 minutes, ready to start. All right now, using the information in the envelope I've provided, exclusively focusing your attention now, using the information in the envelope, focus on 40.89 degrees north, 9.55 degrees west. Sub, which I assume is subject. I want to say that it looks like, I don't know, it sort of looks, I kind of got an oblique view of a pyramid or pyramid form. It's very high. It's kind of sitting in a large depressed area. Monitor, all right. Subject, it's yellowish, ochre colored. Monitor, all right. Move in time to the time indicated. Well, that was super weird. Monitor, all right. Move in time to the time indicated in the envelope. I'm providing you and describe what's happening. Subject, I'm tracking severe clouds, more like dust storm. It's a geologic problem. Seems to be like, just a minute. I've got to iron this out. It's really weird. Monitor, just report your raw perceptions at this time. You're still early in the session. Subject, I'm looking at after effect of a major geologic problem. Monitor, okay, go back to the time before the geologic problem. Subject, total difference. It's, before there's no, I don't know. Oh hell, it's like mountains of dirt appear and then disappear when you go before. See, large flat surfaces, very smooth, angles, walls. They're really large. I mean, they're megalithic. Monitor, all right, at this period in time now, before the geologic activity, look around, in and around this area and see if you can find any activity. Subject, I'm seeing, it's like a perception of a shadow of people, very tall, thin. It's only a shadow. It's as if they were there and they're not anymore. Monitor, go back to a period of time where they are there. Subject, mumbles. It's like I get a lot of static on the line and everything. It's breaking up all the time, very fragmented pieces. Monitor, just report the raw data. Don't try to put things together. Just report the raw data. Subject, I just keep seeing very large people. They appear thin and tall, but they're very large. Wearing some kind of strange clothes. Monitor, all right, now holding in this time period, I want to move you from your physical location in space to another physical location, but in this time period. Move now to 46.45 north, 353.22 east. Move in this time to 46.45 north, 353.22 east. Subject, deep inside of a cavern, not a cavern, more like a canyon. I'm looking up the sides of a steep wall that seem to go on forever, and there's like a structure with It's like a wall of a canyon itself has been carved. Again, I'm getting very large structures. No intricacies. Huge sections of smooth stone. Monitor. Do the structures have insides and outsides? Subject. Yes. It's like a rabbit warren corner of rooms. They're really huge. I don't feel like I'm standing in one. It's really just really huge. Perception is that the ceiling is very high, walls very wide. Monitor. Real time plus 22 minutes. Yes, that would be correct. All right. I'd like to move now to another location nearby. All right. Move from this point in time to 45.86 north, 354.1 east. 45.86 north, 354.1 east. Subject. They have appears to be the end of a very large road, and there's a marker thing that's very large. Keep getting Washington Monument overlay. It's like an obelisk. Monitor. All right. From this point then, let us move to another point. Move to 35.26 north, 213.24 east. Move in this time to 35.26 north, 213.24 east. Subject. It's like I'm in the middle of a huge circular basin of the range mountains by almost all the way around. Very ragged mountains, very tall, basins, very, very, very large. Scale seems to be off or something. It's just really big. Everything is big. Monitor. I understand the problem. Just continue. Subject. See just a right angle corner to something, but that's all. I don't see anything else. Monitor. Okay. Then let's move to a little different place, very close. Move from the point you are now in this time to 34.6 north, 213.09 east. Move now in this time to 34.6 north, 213.09 east. Subject. The cluster of squares up and down. It's like you want to make them square anyway. They're almost flush with the ground, and it's like they're connected. Something very white or reflects light. Monitor. What's your position of observation as you look at this thing that reflects light? Subject. I'm amid oblique left angle. Sun is weird. Monitor. Look back down at the ground now. And we're going to move just a little bit from this place. Just a little bit from this place. 34.57 north. 212.22 east. Very close by. Now move over now to 34.57 north, 212.22 east. Subject. It's like I can just perceive like a radiating pattern of some kind. It's like some really strange intersecting kind of road that are dug into valleys. You know, where a road is just a little below the edge? Monitor. Tell me about the shapes of these things. Subject. They're like real neat channel cuts. They're very deep. It's like the road went down. Monitor. Okay. Now I notice electrically you're null out a little bit, and I want you to stay deep and recapture your focus here. Subject. It's really tough. It seems like it's just always very sporadic. Monitor. I realize that it's very important that you maintain your focus. I have a movement exercise again for you, and this time considerable distance away. So holding the focus in time, remember the focus in time that you had before moving now to 15 degrees north, 198 degrees east. Take some time and get back deep. Subject. See the intersecting, whatever these are aqueduct type things, these rounded bottom carved channels, like road beds. See pointed tops of something in the horizon. Even the horizon looks funny and weird. It's like different, misty, like it's really far away. It's very vague. Okay, another movement too. 80 degrees south, 80 degrees south, 64 degrees east, 64 degrees east. Now move in this time to 80 degrees south, 64 degrees east. Subject. See pyramids. Can't tell if it's overlay or not because they're different. Monitor. Okay, do these pyramids have insides and outsides? Subject. Got both, and they're huge. It's really, it's an interesting perception I'm getting. Monitor. I think that he's losing his ability to move accurately, but he's attracted to things that are interesting. So we're going to go with his own. We're going to let him go ahead and explore what seems to be interesting to him rather than move the targets indicated here. Subject. It's filtering from storms or something. Monitor. Say that again, Sub? They're like shelters from storms. Monitor. These structures you're seeing? Subject. Yes, they're designed for that. Monitor. All right. Go inside one of these and find some activity to tell me about. Plus 30 minutes real time. Subject. Different chambers, but they're almost stripped of any kind of furnishings or anything. It's like strictly a functional place for sleeping. Or that's not a good word. Hibernations. Some form. I get real raw images, storms, savage storms, and sleeping through storms. Monitor. Tell me about the ones who sleep through the storms. Subject. Very tall. Again, very large people, but they're thin. They look thin because of their height, and they dress like in, oh hell, it's like a real light silk, but it's not flowing type of clothing. It's like the cut to fit. Monitor. Move close to one of them and ask them to tell you about themselves. Subject. They're ancient people. They're dying. It's past their time or age. Monitor. Tell me about this. Subject. They're very philosophic about it. They're looking for a way to survive and they just can't. Monitor. Plus 40 minutes, definite voltage reversal. Subject. Can't seem to get their way out. They can't seem to find their way out. So they're hanging on while they look for wait for something to return or something to come with an answer. Monitor. What is it that they're waiting for? Subject. There evidently was a group or a party of them that went to find a new place to live. It's like I'm getting all kinds of overwhelming input of the corruption of their environment. It's failing very rapidly, and this group went somewhere, like a long way to find another place to live. Monitor. What was the cause of the atmospheric disturbance or the environmental disturbance? Subject. I see a picture of like, oh hell, it's almost like a warp. Oh God, this is difficult. Let's see, monitor, the raw data. Subject. Oh, I get a globe. It's like a globe that goes through a comet's tail. It's going through a river of something, but it's all very cosmic. It's like space pictures. Monitor. All right. Now, before you leave this individual, ask him if there is any way that ask him if he knows who you are and if there is any way you can help him in his present predicament. Subject. All I get is that they must just wait. Doesn't know who I am. Think he perceives I'm a hallucination or something. Monitor. Okay, when the others left, these people are waiting. When the others left, how did they go? Subject. Get an impression of, don't know what the hell it is. It looks like the inside of a larger boat. Very rounded walls, shiny metal. Monitor. Go along with them on their journey and find out where it is they go. Subject. Impression of a really crazy place with volcanoes and gas pockets and strange planets. Very volatile place. It's very much like going from the frying pan into the fire. Difference is there seems to be a lot of vegetation where the other place did not have it, and different kind of storm. Monitor. All right, it's time to come back now to the sound of my voice, into the present time, to right now, the 22nd of May, 1984, the sound of my voice. Move now back to the room, back to the sound of my voice. Back further now to the sound of my voice on the 22nd of May, 1984. End of interview. Okay, here we go with the second one. This one is dated the 4th of December, 1987. Again, it's the DIA, even though I'm getting this off the CIA website. Memorandum for the Assistant Deputy for Scientific and Technical Intelligence. Subject, Sunstreak Operational Report, Project 8714U. 1. During the period of 19th of November 1987 to 30th November 1987, inclusively, 5 remote viewers conducted 12 sessions in an effort to describe an event of interest that occurred during the spring of a given year at 9732-11517. A. Viewer 95 described the general target site as a dry, flat area. A group of trained personnel dressed in similar clothing witnessed a sudden occurrence. An apparatus having a peculiar circular component produced a strong, powerful, complex, rhythmic, greenish form of energy that shook the earth at a target site. People at the target area were awed, perplexed, and subsequently died as a result of the burst of energy. Viewer's 95 summary is at tab A. B. Viewer 79 described the general target area as flat, hot, dry, and sandy. It was an area with a Middle Eastern flavor. The specific target site was a large circular area that served as a military assembly storage point for apparent weaponry described as slender brown objects. Tribal people located at the foot of a nearby mountains, tab B, fired a weapon described as a fire-contained device that resembled an outmoded cannon. An estimated 25 to 30 people died as a result of this action. See tab C. The results of the explosion appeared contained and limited to a well-defined circular area at the target site. In a subsequent session, 79 described the weapon as a handheld device. Subsequent to the explosion, military aircraft appeared at the target area but were powerless to provide any meaningful assistance. The victims were badly burned, and the removal of their bodies from the target area proved to be a difficult chore. Viewer 79 summaries are at tab D and E. Warning, notice. Sensitive, intelligence sources and methods involved. C. Viewer 3 describes the target sites as a barren, rocky desert locale where interspersed windowless adobe-type structures were visible. Rolling hills were in the background. An attack was launched against resistance fighters located in a staging area. The purpose of the attack was to evaluate the destructive power of a weapon that involved the use of a magnetic fire control apparatus, identifiable by the presence of a component resembling a cathode ray tube. Tab F. An aircraft used as a forward observation post was in the target area at the time of the incident. The weapon was complex and bulky so that the special arrangements were needed to transport the weapon from one place to another. The weapon generated a great deal of heat and ultimately caused a disintegration of object integrity. The event seemed to have occurred less than 2 years ago. Viewer 3's summary is at tab G. D. Viewer 11 described the target site as a flat, open area situated between two hills. During his early sessions of 20 and 23 November of 1987, respectively, Viewer 11 describes the event as an accidental explosion that resulted in the formation of a toxic cloud originating from the base area of nearby mountains. See tab H. In subsequent sessions, Viewer 11 described the device weapon as being large, round, curving, hollow, and tubular. The weapon produced a glowing fireball, a dome-shaped ball of energy that produced extreme heat, pressure, and excruciating burning sensations. The victims in this explosion were hill people, herders, killed where they stood in a circular confined area where nothing was left but scorched gray ash. The weapon was not initially meant or designed to be used as a tactical weapon. It was originally conceived as a surveillance device. The presence and subsequent crash of a helicopter in the target area were also associated with the event. The weapon was developed in a typical large military complex, tab J, and was subsequently tested at the site, consisting of a square building with a firing path leading to a series of concentric circles, tab K. The weapon appeared related to lasers. Related summaries are tabs L, M, N, and O. E. Viewer 18 described an event involving the presence of a thick gray cloud spreading in an estimated half-mile radius over a flat terrain amid interspersed adobe-type structures. The area reminded 18 of a locale typical of the southwestern part of the U.S. 18 is from Texas. C area stretch at tab P. The cloud formation resulted from an eruption emanating from a squarish appearing box. See tab Q. Exposure to the cloud resulted in a burning of the skin, painful exertion of pressure, and the distortion of bodily joints. The event appeared to be the result of an industrial-type incident in view of the observed presence of personnel wearing blue hard hats in the area. Viewer 18 perceived the presence of several hundred people affected by the cloud. Many were lying on the road while others appeared to be slowly making their way along a road towards a nearby area serving as a refugee camp. Related summaries prepared by viewer 18 are tab R and tab S. 2. General correlation among the viewers predicates a high probability that the nature of the event consisted of a deliberate attack by one group of people against another group. It is also likely that the event took place in a dry, arid, flat area with mountains in the background, an area one would associate with a Middle Eastern country. That cause of the explosion was caused by an energy or laser-related weapon is the moot point and may be the product of analytical overlay. A spillover from the project conducted within the past year regarding the possible involvement of a direct energy-related weapon. Request customer provide an evaluation of this effort in terms of intelligence value and use the information provided above. Session summary, 23rd of November, 1987. This is from Source 95. The site is a dry, arid, flat, empty, dusty land colored with lots of reds and browns. AOL, like the Southwest. The land is old, untouched. At the site, a handful of people are witnessing an abrupt event. They are wearing similar, standardized clothing, part of which is white. The people belong together, a team, and are organized, specialized. The event they are watching involves energy, strong, powerful, complex, rhythmic, greenish energy. A curving or circular component is associated with the energy. Motion is also associated with the energy, as is motion that can be felt in the land. The people are very still as they watch the event. They are in awe, as if their breath has been knocked out of them emotionally. The awe turns into a strong fear as they feel the energy. Then they feel nothing, death. Source 79, 23rd of November, 1987. During today's training is typed, it is circled with summary written above it. Session. I first kept seeing men involved in a lot of activity. Some men were dressed in very formal, decorate military uniforms. The men were working in a large circular area with small rolling hills, and I could see mountains. The land was brown and green, and the area was hot and dry. The land was flat, and at one point I think I could sense sand. There were wide roads or pathways that served the purpose of borders. These men spoke in a Middle Eastern language with a touch of European flavor in the accent. I could see airplanes flying overhead, and these men worked with big objects or with a singular big object. The object was spread out and it could shoot off. The object has light associated with it, and it had many parts that joined it together. When standing straight up, it was tall and slender and brown. It was heavy and thick underneath, and it had a round door. The object could sway and sweep back and forth. It seemed, however, that the men were not too concerned with the object and that they were more concerned with political issues. The men did not argue out loud or fight with themselves, but inside their heads. They did not all think alike. They were more concerned with political issues or political events. These men were also involved with dealing or trading or marking off with other people. These men dealt directly with other people. Then I felt that I came to a very rough feature in the land that was man-made. I had a feeling that men were turning things upside down and backwards. At first, I felt there was a natural disaster because I could see dead people. People's bodies were wrapped up. At first, it seemed that the sun affected them, but later on, I could see that there was an explosion. After looking at the situation much clearer, I could see that these men with the object were moving up from the south. It seemed as though another group of men down from the mountains, which are in the northeast direction, and caused a fire or explosion to occur. They ignited a fire. It seemed, however, I cannot read this word that is written here. It seemed, however, that the men understood nature and could make this occurrence seem natural. These men measured the area and with the help of nature could make an explosion to kill these other men. These men that came from the mountains reminded me of a tribe or nomads. They spoke a much different language than the other men with the object. After the event took place, I could see a military man driving into the area, trying to clean it up, but the job was too big for him to handle. Also, I could see airplanes flying overhead, but they could not clean up the area either. This man that was driving a vehicle had a rank equivalent to a major, and he wore a pin that looked like a Nazi symbol, or a cluster on a white scarf that was around his neck. This symbol was also on his pocket, and the symbol was also on the vehicle. It was red and gold. This event occurred when the weather in this area is known to be extremely hot. The weather at Fort Meade at this time was quite a bit cooler, but warm and breezy. People were wearing sweaters here, but they were too warm in them. At the end of the session, I felt that religion plays a very significant role in this area. Subject 79 Summary, 25th of November, 1987. During today's session, I went back to the area where an event took place. At this time, I could see that the men from the hills came out from the mountain, and they could visibly be seen by the military men. It seemed as though they were planned or schemed the explosion with either a system or by themselves. There was some type of apparatus that they brought out from the mountains and sat on the hill where it could be seen. This apparatus could move or swing, but it had a motion associated with it. It seemed that the tribal men in this system would do the same thing over and over again until the military men never questioned them or lost interest. Then at this point, an explosion occurred and the fire came directly out of this apparatus. The fire was contained. By this, I mean that the fire shot out and only reacted the 25 or 30 men that it killed, but it never spread out to other areas in the land. In other words, the fire was not like a forest fire. It did not spread. The explosion could be heard. It was a dense, roaring sound. The men that were killed fell backwards. They were burnt from the explosion. I could see patches of black. When I was around the dead men, I could see the colors of white with patches of black. After the explosion, military men, which I described in the first session, came to the area and tried to remove the men, but could not. He was trying to lift them and move them, but he could not. It was also after the explosion that the aircraft was trying to fly in, but they could not do anything either. They could not get to the dead men. They could not get the dead men out of the area. During this session, I felt that there was a structure somewhere. I don't know how close it was to the area, but it was either a factory or a plant that produced gold. I could see hard, heavy, big pieces of gold sliding down a conveyor belt and being driven. I also kept seeing the letters or the word Silkti, which had something to do with the location. Now here is some handwritten notes. I'll try to read it, but I'm having a very hard time. It looks like it says something to the effect of the device which killed the men was a primitive or something device and reminded me of a cannon. There were moldings that something smooth, something and handheld or associated with the primitive something they were had. Gosh, I really don't know. More notes. Summary. Site is location in a barren area, desert lake, with little vegetation, lots of rocks, brownish tan hills somewhere in the vicinity. There are a few to several low structures involved, which seem to have thick walls, low ceilings, and few or no windows. The sense of being out in the middle of nowhere is quite pronounced. People are associated with these structures, but don't seem always to be present on a continuing basis. The event associated with this site involves a fairly large group of people, both male and female, and they seem to be dressed in non-Western style of clothing, like Third World. The setting is non-US. There is a sense of antagonism, anger, anxiety, confrontation, insistence among these people. A sudden impression is present of intense heat, fire, smoke, and flames. The idea of conflagration and violence is present. Conflagration is instigated by some outside agency located at a distance and at a higher elevation from the site. An aircraft seems to be orbiting the site, either directly involved or in an observational role. The impression of the actual effort is that the heat is driven. It wouldn't exist under normal conditions, but is forced to be there. The site that is thus under attack seems to involve some sort of staging area, connected with some sort of idea of resistance, AOL Afghanistan, but is not really of any extraordinary significance. The agency directing the destructive force at the site seems less interested in what the target is than in seeing how well the destructive media they are using works. It's almost a clinical evaluation with real people as the target. The people thus targeted would not be surprised to be the object of some sort of aggressive activity in response to some of their own attributes and activities, but they are very surprised that the form the attack upon them takes. The actual equipment used doesn't superficially look like a weapon. Its effects are fully out of proportion to its superficial appearance. It could even be configured in different ways and still produce pretty much the same effect. Effects on the target involve a loss of cohesion at the AOLS molecular level. It's as if all the little component parts of an object are put into great agitation or turmoil, generating quantities of heat and creating disintegration of object integrity or structure. Disruptive or disintegrative are appropriate words to describe the effects. The heat comes from the efforts and not from the operant object weapon itself. Impressions of some sort of magnetics involved for control. AOL impression of the cathode ray tube. Size may be about 3 by 2.5 by 2.5 feet. Entire apparatus requires specific transportation. It's fairly large and bulky and complex. Incident seems to have occurred less than 2 years ago. Session, the 20th of November, 1987, 13:20 hours to 13:47 hours. First impressions are of a tall, angular, vertical structure, focusing on some time in the past. The impression of a land-water interface becomes evident. There seems to be a large open body of water and also a closed or contained body of water. The land appears to rise with gentle incline to a somewhat rolling, flat, open area. See sketch, page 7. The area here is windy, breezy, and almost seems desert-like. There are peoples associated with this location, and they seem lost, confused, dazed, in a state of shock. Survival is foremost in their mind. There is a feeling of a life or death situation, dehydration, and starvation. There is a small group of individuals who have been trained to work together, like freedom fighters or partisans. Focusing on a past event evokes colors of red and orange. Something that is large, billowing, can't read the next word, it's crossed out, expanding and enveloping. There is a strong wind associated with this event and the feeling of dread, fear, confusion, then only darkness. There is also an object associated with this event. It is large, round, curved, hollow, tube-like, and has colors of red and orange and can be found inside. Session, the 23rd of November, 1987, 13:20 to 14:10 hours. Just prior to the target event of color red or reddish-orange is significant. There is a feeling of confusion, panic, and hysteria among the local populace. Also to be found in this area are domestic animals such as goats and sheep. These animals also seem to be in a state of panic and confusion. There is something in the air above, issuing a warning, like a helicopter with a loudspeaker. The people on the ground are confused. They don't or can't understand. Following this warning, there was a crash-like event, an explosion, a toxic cloud, and death. Insert of AOL Afghanistan. There is an impression that this event was an accidental happening, not something that was planned or intended. The source of this event, or the origin, is located some distance away, with mountains visible in the background. Again, there seems to be a toxic cloud associated with this event. The cause of this is two things: elements coming together in a violent reaction. At the source, there appears to be some kind of man-made structure. Inside the structure is where the event seems to originate. The color blue, cobalt blue, is predominant. There is a feeling of intense heat and something like exploding steam, AOL Chernobyl. session, 25th of November, 1987, 10:12 to 10:59 hours. In this session, we have a small group of people who are climbing over the crest of a hill. There is some sort of object or device located on the hill nearby. The terrain between these two hills seems rather flat and is grassy with low bushes and shrubs. While crossing a particularly open area, something happens to this group of people that creates fear, panic, and confusion. The source of this appears to be the object or device. At this point in the session, there is an AOL of laser and Afghanistan. The following information may be a bad copy, you don't get all the page, of AOL Drive. I feel fairly certain that this object device was not designed or meant to be used as a tactical weapon. Its use as an offensive weapon was discovered quite by accident. I feel that this device was designed to be used surveillance tool. There appears to be a hind helicopter in the air behind the site. I perceive that this helicopter goes down or crashes in this area. It is possible that there are two different parts of this object device. One may be the weapon and the other might be the laser device for aiming it. 27th of November, 1987, 13:05. They don't know the end time of this session. In this session, we begin by describing an event. There is something like a glowing fireball, a dome-shaped bubble, or ball of energy that encompasses a circular area on the ground. Within this bubble, there is a feeling of enormous pressure, heat, burning, excruciating pain. Then there is only darkness and black. There is nothing left within the circle area but scorched earth and gray ash. There are people in the area where this event took place. One of them is wearing a pair of loose-fitting greenish-gray trousers with big pockets, boots, and a brown coat made of coarse, wool-like homespun material. This person is very rugged and weathered features, a herder or hill person. An attempt to describe the site where the object that produced this event is manufactured assembled is depicted in the sketch on page 3 of this session. It looks like any typical large industrial complex. A description of the test facility associated with the object can be found on page 4 of the session. There is a square building on a mound, a visible straight line or path leading from the mound to white concentric circles on the ground. This signature should be quite visible from overhead. I have a feeling that this is a test facility, may also be associated with laser research and testing. November 24th, 1987, session summary. The impressions of the session were, the session began with the impressions of a large place with many people in it. Many of the people were lying on the floor in lines. After this initial impression, there was a lot of jumping around to many different places. All of these places seemed to be small homes. There were repeated impressions of breakfast tables with no one at them, the television sets with no one watching them. There was one impression of a baby wrapped up, but with a burn on its face. There was also an impression of a fire extinguisher hanging on the wall, badly charred and burned. There was another impression immediately following that of a rugged-edged, large, squarish hole in the ceiling. See drawing 3. At the bottom of the hole was a squarish box about the size of a suitcase or a large briefcase. Once again, back outside, there were more impressions of a housing area with small, inexpensive homes. I then saw a thick gray cloud high in the air spreading over one of the homes. Told to enter the cloud and describe my impression of it, I felt the stinging sensation, like the sand hitting your bare skin in a dust storm. The cloud seemed to have come from the box mentioned in above. It had issued out of a box in a vertical black column. The thick gray cloud expanded to approximately a half a mile in all directions, falling on people and covering them. Many people were seen running past parked cars. When asked what this gray cloud does to them, it appears that it results in burned skin, affects joints in such a way that people seem to get old, caused pain. The pain which I felt was not sharp, biting pain, but the kind of dull, pressurized aching pain which results in the head when one has a sinus troubles accompanied by a cold and a headache to boot. It was very debilitating. Tasked with describing the area and the surrounding conditions, the following impressions were perceived. The climate was mild, skies a little overcast but not gray and cloudy. The area of concern seemed to be on the outskirts of a city which appeared to be behind me. There was a large structure nearby, slightly behind me to my left, with plenty of verticals and junky-looking buildings, like a refinery. To the right of me, the edge of the city seemed to stretch off into the distance. Very far away to the right front of me, I could see the same curving coastline which I saw nearer in the previous session. The rest of the area was flat, but there was a slight impression that there may have been some low mountains hidden from me by the tall structures. Told to report anything else which might be important. There are two impressions which seem to deal with the last session's impressions. One of the men who had joined the others in turning blue and wearing the blue hats, see report from November 19th of 87, took his blue hat off, laid it quietly to the side as though to divorce himself from it. 2. Another of the blue men was perceived standing with several other Caucasian men in hard hats, looking into the holes previously described as a hole in the ceiling. When I was told to ask him what he was doing there, he answered, "I had to see it." When I was told to ask him what he had to see, he replied, "What I had done." November 30th, 1987, summary session. The session began in a place which had a lot of pipes, metal walls, and vertical lines. There was a person here wearing a heavy work clothes, heavy gloves, and a hard hat. There was a lot of jumping around after this initial impression, but the next main impression was that the gray cloud, the gray smoke, or whatever the cloud is made of, had a very dark, dry, slick feel to it, like graphite or dry oil. Again, there was a lot of jumping around and settling on a person leaving a box in an unidentified place. This box was silver in color, about the size of a suitcase, and had a rounded edge. It was lying flat. The box seemed to have an air vent slit in it. The following impressions were gained from inside the box. Tubes or wires plugged into something at an angle. There was a perception of a piece of metal sheet which was flopping loosely and made contact with a plunger. When that happened, the plunger drew back, allowing a second part to fall into place. This part mechanically moved a partition between a light area and an area which was perceived as having a pile of blackish powder. The powder was then seen to develop fire, blowing sideways across the top away from the area. The black powder began to turn into a molten burning mass. The fire, which blew sideways across, blew directly into a metal wall. There was a perception that this metal wall was held in by plastic, and when it heated up, the plastic gave way. The metal wall then blew directly away and through a resulting hole. I could see the ceiling of the room, making it seem then that sideways was actually up. The fire and smoke had a plastic smell about it. It did not seem toxic, but it did sting, and there was a feeling that it was trying to eat away at the lungs. It began to hurt to breathe. The cue how many people were hurt brought the visual of being far above the cloud and looking down to see to settle over people. The people were perceived bumps under it, like under a blanket. There were many of these bumps, estimated in the hundreds. At stage 6 was an attempt to find the time. A gear was visualized, with the tooth pointing toward me being the apex. The event seemed to occur between 3 or 4 teeth to the left in the past. What period of time a single tooth stands for, I do not know. 1984, about, ? And that's the end. Creepy ass stuff. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments. Have a great weekend.